not every person is simply harmful. Some are actually serving Shaytan without even realizing it. They can drain your Iman without ever laying a hand on you and somehow twist it so you think the fault is yours. You've crossed paths with them before, but you didn't yet recognize who they truly were. That friend who leaves you questioning your value, the cousin who greets you with a smile but plants doubts in your chest, the coworker who fuels your worst habits and laughs when you slip. They aren't strangers. They're already in your circle. And here's what almost nobody tells you. The most dangerous ones don't yell. They don't openly threaten. They appear calm, likable, even comforting, just long enough to come close enough to your heart so they can quietly reshape it. The Qur'an warns us. And so we have made for every prophet enemies, devils from mankind and jinn. 6:112. This warning isn't only about unseen jinn. Some of these enemies have your contacts saved. They know your routine. They know the exact phrases to make you question your prayer, your patience, your worth. The scariest detail is they look like anyone else, which means that if you can't spot the signs, you won't know when to walk away until the damage is already done. Sign 1. They twist your kindness into proof. The first time, you forgive because you want to be merciful. The second, because Islam teaches patience. By the third, you start noticing something. Their apologies are shorter, their excuses smoother, their behavior worse. They aren't actually sorry. They're sure you'll never leave. It shows up in everyday things. A late-night WhatsApp argument where you type a whole paragraph with shaking hands, then erase it and send only, "It's fine." They take that fine as permission to repeat the same tomorrow. Or maybe they borrow money just for a week, but weeks stretch into months while their Instagram shows cafe selfies. When you bring it up, they laugh. "Come on, you know me." And that's exactly the issue. You do know them. The trap is when you start believing your gentleness is the weakness. But mercy isn't meant as a free pass for abuse. The Prophet Muhammad said, "A believer is not stung from the same hole twice." Islam commands forgiveness, yes, but also self-protection. Compassion without boundaries isn't compassion. It's an opening for manipulation. Pay attention to how they respond when you set a soft boundary. Do they honor it? Or do they look sorry just long enough to keep the cycle running? If they keep you trapped in this loop, they're not valuing your kindness, they're exploiting it. And when that no longer works, their next move is even darker, rewriting your sense of reality. Sign 2. They make you doubt your own memories. You remember every detail, what was said, the tone, the look. But when you bring it up, they insist, "I never said that," or "You're overreacting." Suddenly, you're questioning yourself, as if you imagined it. Maybe they raise their voice, but later claim it was only passion. Or they flip your boundaries into insults. "Wow, I didn't realize you were this cold." Or they post a cropped screenshot in the family chat that makes it look like you started the fight. The longer you deal with them, the more you question your own recollection. And that's the goal. If they can make you doubt your version of events, they can replace it with theirs. That's control without physical chains. This is the same strategy Shaytan uses. He doesn't drag you to sin, he whispers. He twists the story until the believer's certainty cracks. It drains you because you start apologizing just to keep peace, even when you know deep down you're not in the wrong. And each time you do, you hand them more authority over what counts as true. Soon, you stop checking your own heart. You check their reaction to decide if you're right. The reality check is this: If someone constantly makes you question what you know, you saw, heard, or felt, that isn't confusion. It's manipulation. And once they break your trust in yourself, their next step is to drag you further from the only healing source you have. Your link to Allah and the company of those who bring you closer to Him. Sign 3. They make your faith feel like a burden. You stand to pray at work and someone comments, "Wow, you've gotten religious," with a smirk that makes you want to hide. You skip a mixed gathering to guard your gaze, and your friends mock, "Relax, it's not that serious." You post an ayah on social media, then delete it because you already hear their voice mocking it in your head. It's not that you feel shame in your deen, you love it deeply. But they make it seem excessive, out of place in normal life. Slowly, you start concealing parts of your faith just to avoid conflict. Allah warns us. And when you see those who engage in offensive talk concerning our verses, turn away from them until they enter into another conversation. 68. It's not just about public debates. Sometimes offensive talk is a joke from a friend that chips away at your confidence in worship. Even the Prophet Muhammad faced this. The Quraysh mocked him, labeled him, tried to shake his certainty. But Allah commanded him to stand firm. He didn't water down the truth to gain approval. And He taught us, "Whoever among you sees an evil, let him change it with his hand. If he cannot, then with his tongue. If he cannot, then with his heart." And that is the weakest form of faith. When someone makes you feel ashamed of your Islam, they're trying to take even that last form, your heart's resistance, away. And that's dangerous, because once they succeed, their next move will be worse, blurring the boundary between right and wrong until you don't even notice when sin is happening. Sign 4. They make you feel nothing towards sin. It rarely begins with something drastic. The fall usually starts in small silence. You once skipped that scene in a Netflix episode, but now you let it play because it's only a moment. You used to scroll past vulgar TikTok trends, but now you like them, maybe even share them as a joke. You once felt a heavy tug in your chest when you missed Fajr, but now you brush it off as normal since everyone oversleeps sometimes. The real danger is not that you suddenly commit harm, but that the harm stops feeling harmful. The gravest sin is not always the action itself. It's losing the sense that it's even wrong. In today's fast-paced secular world where nearly everything is consumed as entertainment and where social media turns wrongdoing into content, this happens daily without us even noticing. And the people around you? They help it feel ordinary. They say you're being too harsh on yourself, tell you to relax, insist it's not serious, and warn you not to be extreme. It sounds harmless, but this is exactly how Shaytan operates. Allah says, "But Satan made their deeds pleasing to them." Surah An-Nahl 1663. He doesn't throw you into fire overnight. He gradually makes the fire feel like comfort. The Prophet Muhammad warned in a hadith in Muslim that when sin spreads in a community, and people can change it but don't, Allah will soon punish them all. Why? Because when wrong becomes normalized, it spreads. And once it spreads, it stops being resisted. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah said, "A dead heart isn't one that sins, but one that sins without sorrow." That is the true danger, not feeling anything when you cross the line. Look at the reality today. Missing Salah is brushed off as busy life. Explicit music plays at Muslim weddings and no one reacts. Hijab is taken off for one night at an event and dismissed as harmless. Ramadan ends, and so does the Qur'an. In a society where almost everything pushes you away from Allah, It's frighteningly easy for sin to fade into the background. And the human shayateen around you, they prefer it this way. They'll laugh with you in sin, clap for you and call it freedom or open-mindedness. They want you numb, because a numb believer doesn't resist, doesn't repent, doesn't even notice the distance between them and Allah. So here is the test. Do you still feel a sting after you slip? Or have you trained yourself to mute it? If that sting has gone, it is not a sign you are safe. It is the siren warning you're in danger. And those who keep that alarm quiet are not your allies. Because once you grow numb, you're easier to direct. And the next step for someone like this is to keep you busy enough that you never wake up again. Sign 5. They thrive on your chaos. Some people appear only when your world is unsettled. Notice it. When your life is calm, your thoughts clear, and your worship steady, they vanish. But when there's drama, they rush to the front row. They want the gossip, the screenshots, the detailed retelling of who said what. They'll even encourage revenge, because the calm version of you is harder to manipulate. Maybe you've noticed this yourself. You try to work on your deen, set a routine, and suddenly they drop into your messages with gossip about someone you left behind months ago. You have a week of Qur'an and Salah, and they drag you into a heated family WhatsApp argument that leaves you drained, angry, and too tired to pray Isha with presence. Sometimes it's not open malice. It can be wrapped as concern. I just thought you should know what they said about you. But watch the effect. After talking to them, your chest feels tight, your thoughts restless, your mood dark. That's not care, that's feeding. Allah tells us in the Qur'an that Shaytan's aim is to make people forget. Surah Al-Mujadilah 58:19. Chaos is one of his simplest tricks. When you are stuck in emotional storms, arguments, gossip, grudges, you have no space left for heartfelt dua, no stillness to reflect, no heart ready to taste the sweetness of ibadah. Even in the Prophet's Muhammad time, hypocrites deliberately created disputes. In Uhud, some withdrew mid-battle, causing confusion and weakening the Muslim spirit. The plan hasn't changed: distract, divide, destabilize. Human shayateen know that a believer who is restless inside is easier to drag away from Allah than one grounded in tranquility. Look closely at your own circle. Who disappears when you are at peace, but suddenly reappears when there is drama to stir? Who gives you words that make the conflict bigger instead of calming it? Who smirks when you're stressed, but grows distant when you're focused? Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is spiritual upkeep. The Prophet Muhammad said, "Part of a person's good Islam is leaving what does not concern him." Sometimes what doesn't concern you is other people's chaos, especially when they try to make it your prison. Because here's the truth. Someone who feeds on your chaos will not celebrate your healing. When you find calm, they lose their access. When you grow firm in your deen, their control fades, and not everyone is ready to lose that. So maybe as you read this, certain faces came to mind. The one who turns your kindness into a chain. The one who rewrites events until you doubt yourself. The one who pressures you to shrink your deen for their comfort. The one who numbed you to things that once broke your heart. The one who seems to breathe lighter only when your life is messy. But Islam doesn't teach us to declare people human shaitan to their face. This is about you, your heart, your trust, your amana. When Allah warns us in the Qur'an about devils from both mankind and jinn, it isn't for gossip, it's for recognition. to see the pattern and guard your soul before the damage is done. The guarding looks different for each of us. Sometimes it means distance, sometimes silence, sometimes reshaping a relationship so it no longer has access to your weak spots. Mercy in Islam was never permission for harm. The Prophet Muhammad forgave, but he also set limits to protect himself and his companions. And maybe this is the most difficult part. Sometimes these people are the ones you love. Family, close friends, those who once held you in your tears. That is why it is even more dangerous when they are the ones quietly pulling you away from Allah. That is why boundaries must be placed, gently but firmly. You can still make dua for them, still smile when you see them, but you are not required to keep your heart unguarded before them. Protecting your heart is not selfishness. It is worship. It is guarding the home of your faith. So if this message reached you at a time you needed it, leave a quiet, Ya Allah, protect my heart from every shaitan, human or jinn, in the comments. You don't know who might say, Amin. Until then, choose peace over turmoil, choose Allah over validation, and choose companions who make your faith lighter, not heavier. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.